Welcome back, everybody, to Goodwill Podcasting with Dan and Stone, your movie podcast that today is talking about Eddington, the fourth feature-length film from Ari Aster, a very divisive director, as we see yet again this weekend with this new film. And we're going to get to that in just a moment. But I wanted to talk about our guest right off the bat here, because this is a friend of the pod, a friend of ours for a long time. Brian, I'm so sorry. I meant to ask you this before we got on. We had a little technical delay. We were a little bit late joining the pod today. Am I blocking it out? Have you been on the podcast before?
No, you guys.
That's crazy.
Blackballed me. You blackballed me.
All right. This is one of the most genuine, sweet, awesome guys. I love how you run your podcast, by the way. The first time I was on there, I was like, Dan, we need to do what he's doing, because that went smooth, like professional, great talker. But anyways, yes, welcome on. Your first time, surprisingly, on Goodwill Podcasting to talk about Eddington.
Yeah, it was funny because Dan actually asked me a couple days ago, and he's like, "Hey, can you be on this weekend on Sunday?" And I was like, "You motherfucker," because I'm going on vacation on Sunday. So I was like, "Of course, you would ask me right when I have to go on vacation." But he was like, "Oh, let me talk to Stone," and then, even though you were 45, 50 minutes late, we're on it.
All right, we're going to keep that on the down low, but it's okay. It was 45. It was about 10, 15 minutes. A little context. I texted Dan because I thought we were going to do a whole Ari Aster episode. And it was going to be wild because I was going to try to cram in. I woke up at 5 a.m. and started watching Hereditary today.
Oh.
Hold on. So I was going to watch Hereditary, Midsommar, and then also I've never seen Beau is Afraid, and I really want to see Beau is Afraid.
Like 2.5 hours, right?
I know. That's why 5 o'clock we were going to start this. I thought at 2:30, so I wouldn't have even finished this on time. That's why I was a little bit late. I thought this was 2:30. But I woke up very sick, as you can maybe hear in my voice. So I texted Dan. I was like, dude, I don't know if I could do 3 Ari Aster. Like, I can't talk about 4 Ari Aster movies in a row. I don't think I have the energy. And he's like, well, I wasn't going to in the first place, so you're good. So he had no idea that we had talked about, I thought we had talked about maybe doing all the rest of them. But it kind of worked out because, that would have been wild to cram in 3 Ari Aster movies at 5 in the morning.
You might not have lived through that. Let me just put it that way.
It's a crazy triple feature. Wait, Stone, have you seen any of them before? Or
yeah, all right. Beau is Afraid is the only one that I haven't watched. I remember my mentality was it didn't look like your typical horror movie, and it's honestly straight up it's 3 hours, and I was like, geez, that's a whole lot of time I'm gonna have to set aside to watch this movie. Which even this movie being at 2 hours and 20 minutes, I was like, that feels like a little bit longer than what we've gotten in theaters recently. I can't remember like the last long movie I watched in movies in a theater.
Mission Impossible, probably.
Oh yeah,
that shit was long, but we already forgot about that movie. So
yeah,
I didn't forget about the submarine sequence. I like that, but
yeah.
But as listeners of this episode probably know, if you're interested in Eddington at all, it is about COVID, which I think everyone in America, everyone listening to this, and everyone in the world can kind of relate to. So I pitched the idea to these guys, these gentlemen right here, before we started recording, about maybe sharing our COVID story, how we found out about COVID, where we were, our experience with it. And Brian, I know this is a chapter in your life, the way you reacted. You said, oh boy, took 3 shots, and you're like, man, I'm ready to go. So that's a joke, by the way. Just want to give a little context. So I'll go first because I'll make mine quick, and then I'll let you, maybe Dan and then Brian. But basically, I was living in Michigan, and I actually came down here to Florida, where I'm at now, to Fort Myers, Inglewood, to visit my grandparents. And I remember because my grandparents are very big sports people. They grew up in Ann Arbor, Michigan, so they're huge University of Michigan fans. So I was watching March Madness with my grandparents. Like that was like we were sitting there. That's what we do. And I remember one of my cousins was also staying with them as well. Basically, it's like, man, can't wait to watch basketball. Cut this game short. This game's done. What's his name? Rudy Gobert. I'm like, wait, what? And then I didn't know if I was going to be able to get back to Michigan. I was like, what is going on right now? This is wild. Obviously, there had been not rumors, but people have been talking about COVID. I think my early recognition of it was like since January, but that's when everything got like for real. But I was able to go back to Michigan. I worked at a local pizza place at the time that sucked ass. I won't tell you where, but they were disgusting. And they had to let me go So I got a job at, I'm like, I got to work somewhere. I got a job at the one place I knew I wasn't going to shut down. I got a job at Walmart. And I got a job at Walmart as a online grocery shopper. So I think I should have that job or get that job again because what happened, because I was walking around all day long, I lost 40 pounds.
Whoa.
And now I'm no longer at Walmart, and something has come back, I will say. So yeah, that was, I lost weight, basketball went away, and thank God I didn't have that awful pizza place manager again because he was a disgusting individual. But shout out Blaze Pizza in Gaylord, Michigan. Oh, sorry. There's
Exposed.
we actually don't know if
LeBron's
it's
gonna
called
be-
Blaze.
Oh,
All right, that is my story.
That's a good story. Yeah, my time around COVID was kind of unfortunate because I had been living with friends, like had roommates, and that was the first time I was gonna go live by myself. So I basically got a new job, just outside of Philly, and my idea was I wanted to move so I could like walk to work and move close to where that job was. So I moved basically down the street from the office. It was my first time living completely by myself, and that was January of 2020. So, um, yeah, basically, I was working for like 3 months in the office, and then the office closed, and then I never went back. So, I literally kind of moved for a purpose that became completely obsolete. But yeah, May of that year, I got my dog Watson. So we spent a lot of time together, uh, hanging out, played a lot of video games, watched movies. Was able to see like a lot of my friends are locals. Was able to see people in small doses here or there and like stay sane. But I wish I had started doing all this stuff. Like I think about that and kick myself, but it was a good time because I got my dog and everything was okay.
So my buddy was the exact same way. My best friend, besides you, of course, Dan, um, he worked from home, or no, he worked in Virginia, and then his business shut down. You're going to work remotely from at least the foreseeable future. And then he had the option to go back. Like, if you want to work in the office, you can, but you don't have to. So even though he works out of Virginia, he moved all the way to Florida because he's like, nope, I don't want to live in Virginia, but I'll keep my job. So it's just crazy that just happened. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know how deep you want me to go here because honestly, COVID, it wrecked my life in a lot of ways. So I was living in Cincinnati at the time, and I had what I at the time called my dream job. I worked for a franchise called Window Genie. As part of a larger corporation called Neighborly. They own things like Mr. Rooter, Mr. Electric. Like it's just a massive, $1 billion home service company. And like you said, our office shut down as well. Like we got sent home. But I had just bought a brand new house, like a really, really big house with my in-laws because I just also had a son. And so my son was 9 months old, and we daycares were not a thing. My wife was a nurse, so we weren't sure about her job, what was going on with that, because she was in surgery. So then they shut down surgery, so she was going to get laid off. But so it was just a really weird time. So my in-laws, who are both retired, sold their house. We sold our house. We moved into this really, really big house that had like an awesome finished basement and a mother-in-law suite. And we were all just kind of living in this house together. But of course, my mother-in-law has other grandchildren, and so it was really tough. And they're not going to hear this, so I don't know, I'm just going to speak freely. They're super Trump fans, right? Like they're hardcore Trumpers. And I'm not like I wouldn't say like I was a huge Biden fan either, but like I definitely was not a Trumper, right? So politics just kind of stayed out of the house. My wife is like, she like is very much not a fan of Trump. So like her and her mom clashed a lot. And so like, as we know, and we'll talk about in the movie, lots of conspiracy theories were flying around. Lots of things were going crazy at that time. My wife was really hardcore on the shot and the jab and like, and just really wanting to make everyone get it. My stepfather at the time was living with us, and he was not, not in great health. He was the first to get COVID because they went to a Thanksgiving gathering. We didn't go. They went. So it was in the fall of 2020. Is that 2020? Yeah. He almost died. I came home and he was in his bed. His O2 stat was 82. And if you know anything about that, that's like, I mean, you're close to death. It should be 90 above 90, right? So, and he was just like talking out of his head. So we called 911, and as he left, I remember telling my wife, like, this might be the last time we see this guy. Like, this might be it. I really didn't know if he was coming back. So we all got COVID. My son, who was 9 months old, got COVID. This, the first round where we didn't really even know what was happening. He was throwing up. I felt like I was dying. And so over the next few months, my father-in-law came back home, but he kind of had a mental break, and we had a huge falling out within the family. And a lot of it had to do with COVID. And so we sold the house, and because at the time still daycare was not a thing, we needed my parents to help because we felt like just more comfortable. So we moved 3 hours north to my hometown of Mansfield. It was really hard because I love Cincinnati. We had bought this like dream home, and we were very comfortable living there. And then quickly after that, they were like, hey, our office is never opening back up, and you're going to have to move to Dallas. And I was like, what? That's not happening. So luckily I have another job. I have found it pretty quickly. But yeah, COVID just really completely wrecked my life. And I could really relate to a lot of the things in Eddington on a personal level, just some of the actions and some of the weird, like just people doing things that are out of character because it was just a crazy time.
Man, thanks for sharing that. I mean, that is crazy shit.
Yeah.
I remember my brother, when I eventually did come back home, there was like this one moment where he couldn't figure out. It was scary. It was scary times that everything was happening so quickly. I remember my brother just being like, just so frustrated because he couldn't taste anything.
Yeah.
And that was like the first like hint of maybe something happening in our family. And my brother's I've never really seen my brother scared, but he was pretty petrified. Like he was like, I don't want to talk about this right now. Basically,
Yeah.
I'd rather ignore it than like let's acknowledge something else right now because I'm not in a great mood. But crazy times.
Yeah, it was scary. Losing I didn't get my taste buds back for like 2.5 months.
Yeah, I think one of the things is like how different it was for everyone. Like I feel like everyone has a different experience with, the pandemic in general, but also like the virus, and there were so many different strains, and they all behaved. So there was always an element of like uncertainty, and I think that also led to people saying, "Well, I had a runny nose and I felt fine, so who cares?" And then other people were like, "No, I instantly died." Like it's just there was so many variables, and I feel like that's one of the things that made it so difficult. And my dad has cancer, and his immune system is pretty compromised. So like both my parents were under a great deal of stress pretty much the entire time. And it's just like, everyone has different factors that made them more vulnerable or not. And it's just, there was just so much going on. And I feel like it just, COVID still exists, obviously people still get it, but, we were able to kind of shift away from it, but it still feels like it would just happened. That's why we'll get into it. I think this movie would have been better off coming out down the road, when there aren't so many people just still here that were directly affected in huge ways, and we'll get into it. But yeah,
I'll say if you want to start, I mean, I know what Dan thinks of this. I texted him last night after I watched it, and I was curious what you thought of it, Brian. I was like, did he reach out to you yet? He said no. So it sounds like out of the three of us, you might have been obviously the most affected by it because we just shared our story. So I'm curious, do you think this movie should have been made? Did it feel too soon? or did it connect with you in any way? I mean, the whole my family living with me kind of thing. I mean, that immediately that stood out to me, like with the mother-in-law in this. And I'm like, wow, crazy how. I mean, a lot of people were like that. So what did you think?
Yeah, real quick, can I tell a story about my viewing experience?
Go right ahead.
So, I watched it last night at like I did a 10 o'clock showing, and I was at my grandma's house earlier in the day, and my two aunts were visiting as well, and they're in their late 50s, and I was like, all right, we got to get going. I got to get home, get my son ready for bed, and then I got to go to this movie, and they're like, can we come? And I was like, if you want to, like, why don't you watch the trailer first and just make sure this is a movie that you want to go. They're like, well, is it funny? I'm like, I think it's got a little humor in it, but I wouldn't call it, a comedy. So they both decided to come, and we went, and then we walk in, and I'm not kidding. This is not an exaggeration. We walk in, we're the only ones in there, except for in the very back row are two 9-year-old girls. And I kept checking the ticket stub, and I was like, is this the right movie theater? Like, are we in the right like house? Like, and I went and I double checked with, the usher, and they're like, yeah. And I was like, I don't think that these girls are in the right movie. And I was like, should I say something? And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, maybe their parents work here and they're just like letting them go. No, they were definitely in the wrong movie, and they left within 20 minutes. I heard one little girl said, Mom told us 14 and she meant 4. This is embarrassing. And I was like, oh, wow. I'm glad they left before the very, very end. Let me just say that.
I'm glad you went and checked, because that reminds me of like one of my favorite sitcoms where like Modern Family, where one of the main character like turns around and just yells at something. It's like, I really don't think you should bring your kid here. He's like, buddy, I think it's fine. All right. Like, chill out. We're good. And it was, and they were in the wrong movie. They're like, whoops, sorry, man.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But no, it was, you mentioned the mother-in-law thing. Cause I turned to my aunt, when I was like, I was like, is this movie going to be about me? Like, kind of like, and we kind of laughed. So this movie, I think it was made in too close to the time. I don't think that there is enough time has elapsed, because so much is still fresh. It did give me, like, initially I got like kind of not a full-on panic attack, but I got like very anxious at this, and I was just like in my head, like, man, that sucked. Like, I remember all this, like the stacks of toilet paper and paper towels, and just the wearing of the masks and all that kind of stuff, and just the anxiety that went along with that time. And I do think that it's just like too fresh, and there hasn't been enough. I don't think we know enough about what happened in terms of like what was real, what was fake, what happened to really make this movie and make the point that he ultimately is trying to make. I don't think I dislike it as much as you, Dan, but I do think am I going on full on review here? Do you want me to
maybe keep it a little bit spoiler free for the first 15-20 minutes?
Okay. I don't think that the movie does a great job of building any character here. Like, I think that the character work here is very sloppy. I think that there's two different stories that are taking place here, and one of the films, like in this movie, would have been fantastic. But I think that the first, like, I don't know, 30 to 40 minutes is just really, really bad, and it doesn't tell a nuanced enough story about COVID. If you're going to make a movie about COVID, then make it about COVID. Don't put all these other things in there. And there's some other things that happened during COVID, that I'm sure we'll dig into, that I think that just really felt misplaced, and it didn't feel fleshed out. And I think that the actual technical aspect of this film, in terms of cinematography and score, I mean, the score is really haunting. I felt like this is a really good score. And I think that the performances are all fantastic. But really, I mean, when I say that, there's only really one performance that even does anything, and that's Joaquin Phoenix's performance. Mm-hmm. But overall, I think that it's a really poorly, like, constructed script. And that's really my biggest issue, is this feels like two separate movies that are put into one.
So I don't know, Dan, did you see my rating?
No.
This is my second favorite movie of the year.
Whoa.
Which is fucking wild.
Yeah.
I talked to my brother about it for about an hour this morning. I can't stop thinking about it. And I understand what you're saying with the lack of character development. Really, the only person that you're really following is Joaquin Phoenix, and I think he does he does get fleshed out a bit, but it's because of the characters around him. Because you find out, I mean, he does change throughout the movie, very very much so. But for me, the main character of this movie is COVID. I mean, that's what it was sold as, and I think it's extremely fascinating. He'll listen to this podcast, but a friend of ours who's been on the pod before, he won't mind me saying this. I won't say his name, but he said that this movie is boring. And to me, I don't necessarily know how this movie could be boring because it's relatable to everyone. You could not like it, right? You could think it's too soon. You could think even the messaging, but everyone can connect with it. Everyone's like, dude, that was my life. Like I knew someone like that. So I think this is an extremely engaging film, and it's funny too because this is very different than anything Ari Aster has done before, and he's a very fascinating filmmaker. Whereas in every single one of his movies feels like it has conversations like this, where people like it, people don't like it. It's crazy how he can do that with a new movie and a new genre. But I will say before we get into the nitty gritty of this review of this discussion, there is one aspect of this that I didn't necessarily like. To me, Eddington is a small town, and it's a small town that essentially believes that the world would believe would be unaffected by COVID. But because of really social media, it feels like the rest of the world, even though, as they say in the movie, like there's no COVID here in Eddington, at least at the beginning. And Brian, you sound like you're from Cincinnati. Dan, you're from Philadelphia. I was living in a very small town during COVID with like 2,000, 3,000 people, which feels like the size of Eddington. So one issue I have is he's trying to be so accurate with this. And I read that Ari Aster, he's from New Mexico. Like he talked to people in this area about what the reactions were during COVID. So maybe I'm incorrect in this, but Eddington's a fictional town, I believe. So, I mean, Dan, you did a whole video about it. It's a fictional town, right?
Yeah.
I don't believe everything that would happen and that happens in this movie would actually happen in a small town during the age of COVID, to be honest. Like I remember George Floyd and people protesting that in my small town. It was like 13 people. Like I remember driving by and they're on someone's lawn. So it wasn't the crowd that this movie culminates towards the middle of it. So I'm like, that doesn't seem really realistic to me. Some of the stuff they do when they're on the street as well. I'm like, the entire world isn't like that, but I spoke to my brother. We'll get into that later, but I spoke to my brother about why that possibly happens. But in my opinion, there are, I mean, I don't think this is necessarily spoiling the movie. There are 3 characters in this movie that I believe the film is actually about, like who you're supposed to look at in this movie and see how the people who are dealing with COVID, how they dealt with these individuals. And it is Michael, which is the police officer, the African-American police officer, and how the city reacts to him when everything goes down. It's also Lodge, which is our homeless person, who is literally the first character that you see in this movie, which is kind of wild. And then also Brian, which Brian is a very fascinating, that is the young gentleman who wants to be an activist because of his desires to be liked by women, which is very fascinating to view that because feels like a very famous, unfortunately famous individual in the news that me and my brother talked about. He's essentially Kyle Rittenhouse, right? And I think a lot of this is accurate. I mean, I think this is more maybe the reason why people, not us here, but a lot of individuals didn't necessarily love it is because it's not necessarily, there are good messages throughout this entire movie. I think that Ari Aster does show us the 2 things that are the most important. He shows us that, hey, COVID is real. And I'll explain, or we'll talk about how he does that later in this discussion. But he's like, hey, COVID was a real thing and it fucked people up. And he shows us that towards the end of the movie, even though there are some really good jokes. I don't know about you guys. I mean, you said there was barely any people in your theater. Dan, did you have a lot of people in your theater?
It was about halfway full, I would say.
Okay. I was in Disney Springs. I didn't hear a single person talk the entire movie. And because it's an Ari Aster movie, there's 3 or 4 sequences where everyone, because they were so locked in, just gasped and they were completely shocked. And it felt really cool. Honestly, I hadn't felt like I've been to Superman. I've been to huge movies this year, Sinners. And those are different movies with not like shocking, things happening, but it was cool to feel that environment. And I mean, I'm rambling here a little bit, but I just think that he proves that COVID is real in a certain way, but then also what he does with Michael and how the town views Michael and treats Michael, I think does factor into the narrative, the correct narrative, that people are racist. I don't want to get into spoilers just yet, but people, because that's the thing. That's what my hometown felt like, is you have one black character in this movie. That's what I grew up with. We didn't have a whole lot of African Americans in my town growing up, but there is obviously a very important message with George Floyd happening, or important incident happening. So how both people protesting in support of that and also people not paying attention to it, how they interact with him is so fascinating. And that was one of my favorite elements of the entire movie. And how the story ends with him, I think, is super powerful. Sorry, like I said, I talked about it a lot with my brother.
Yeah. Do we need a 2.5-hour movie to tell us COVID was real in 2025?
I don't know if that's, I think it's the effect of what social media, I don't know if that's like the main message. Like that is something that happens, which I think was very important, right? Because he does make fun of people who follow the COVID protocol, and makes fun of people who didn't follow the COVID protocol in this movie, which I think is why people like Pedro Pascal is not the best individual in this movie, even though it does seem at times like he is very much, six, don't hang out with your friends, 6 feet, all that stuff. He's kind of sketchy at times. So I don't necessarily think that is the main message, but that is something that was very important when you're making fun of both sides who dealt with the pandemic. Like what is your thoughts on the pandemic? Because people don't necessarily have, still, as you're saying, Brian, like the whole truth about what happened maybe hasn't come out yet. I'm not saying that, COVID wasn't real or anything like that, but I like that Ari Aster did that in this movie. He solidified the fact, no, I took the shit seriously, and we see that at the end. But I don't think that's what the message is about. I think it's how the world at that time could have affected a small town, but then the reason why people do certain things when it comes to activism, when it comes to even running for office. I mean, it's, even though these are real people, I feel like he took character or louder than life, exaggerated characters of COVID and shoved them all into one town. That's why I believe there's only like 2 or 3 real people in this movie. But I don't think that was the main message, was that COVID was real.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about like both sidesing it. When you're like, it's not an issue to both. Like one side was saying, hey, let's listen to scientists, right? And let's just do the most basic things we can out of respect for like human life. And the other side was saying, I'm too stupid to care about what scientists say. The internet and Facebook memes tell me this is all a conspiracy and not real. So even to their deathbed, there were people that had COVID and died, and they're literally on their deathbed saying, oh, this is just, it's not actually, it's so like, you don't, like both sides in that issue, like what is the point? Like to me, it feels like this is a movie someone on the far left can watch and really enjoy and say, oh yeah, look at that guy, Joe Cross, right? He's this crazy right winger, and he becomes this crazy psychopath who's murdering people. That's what they are. Someone on the far right can watch this and say, look at these fucking liberal clowns who thought we should wear masks and social distance and do all this stuff, and they get what they deserved from Joe Cross, and they can probably enjoy it. Or like people on either side can watch it and feel like they're being mocked, and they can hate it. So what Ari Aster does with this movie, where the point is me on my big throne, Ari Aster up here, smarter than you, and distance from this to see the clear reality of what happened, I can say, oh, look how silly you all are on both sides of these things. When in reality, and your point is, oh, you're so divided, look at all this other stuff that's happening, you're being distracted, blah, blah, blah. Your movie only serves to serve people that are like hyper on one side of this or the other, or just make people more upset that are already divided. Like you're literally doing with this movie what you are sort of criticizing in the movie. And like that is why I have a problem with it, because no one is watching this and being like, "Oh, my eyes have been opened to the truth." Like you're showing us a Rolodex of images, like a flashbook of stuff, and saying, "Remember this, remember that." Like, remember this image from this moment that you just lived through, and then you're just trying to say, oh, everyone is silly. Like, it's not an issue to both sides. One side was right. No one, even could certain people be too careful with COVID? Absolutely. Were the people that became secluded and lost in touch with their life and, you know, became really afraid and stuff like that. 100%. Those people didn't fucking hurt anyone else. All they did was be too careful, and maybe they hurt their own, like, change their own life. Sure. The people on the other side are people that got other people fucking killed. That's why you don't both sides this issue. It's not a joke. It was real. So when you're like, do you understand my point? And why I find the movie so annoying? And it's the same exact thing about George Floyd. It's the same exact thing, except I would argue worse, coming from Ari Aster, who, you said he's from New Mexico. He moved to New Mexico when he's like 11. This is a rich kid from New York. That's what he is. Like, making this movie about this weird, mostly white town in New Mexico. It doesn't feel like a small town in New Mexico, but this is his reality and his story, like, that he's decided we need to see. So I just find it so obnoxious.
Go ahead, Brett.
So the biggest, like, so one of the biggest issues I have is the way, like, for this to take place in the time of COVID, I think is interesting, right? So, like, everything that happens in the back half of this movie, right? If this was a movie about politics and about, like, and the thing is like interjecting the COVID stuff into it did make it feel less effective, in my point. So, like, if this was a straight up, like, almost a nuanced take on the actual election, right? Like, if you know, Joe Cross was truly Trump and Garcia was, you know, Biden or Kamala Harris in some way, right? Like, I'm not saying that it had to be like a 1-for-1, but if you were trying to address something politically, it would have been more, I think, coherent and more valuable. My issue with the COVID thing is, like, it says right off the jump that this is taking place in May 2020, and even the people who were pretty far to the right were still masking and doing things because Trump was telling them to do it. That's where I don't feel like this movie feels realistic, because what if you truly go back in time and you look at the way things were, sure, there were people who were like, I'm not wearing the mask. I don't care what, you know, Governor DeWine, who was a Republican in Ohio and was telling everyone to mask, right? Like, it was pretty down the middle in terms of, like, everyone was kind of on the same page in the beginning of the pandemic, where this is what you do, right? The problem, and this is what I really wish the film would addressed, is the way that the media and social media, because, right, it brings in social media, but that's the problem with this movie, is it doesn't tie everything together in any kind of real way. Like, I think, Dan, you said in your video, is like, big tech is the bad guy, right? And I get that, what it's saying, but it doesn't, there's too much going on to have. It kind of reminds me of Superman in a lot of ways, because it's saying a lot about a lot of different things, but it's not planting its feet firmly about one thing. And, like, the masking, right? To me, one of the biggest scandals of the entire COVID situation was that Dr. Fauci said that any mask, any face covering would work. But he knew that N95 masks were the only masks that prevented the spread of COVID. He said he was doing it to prevent those from basically, you know, being sold out, and nurses and people who really needed them getting them. But by telling us that, all you did was then give the right a lot of fuel to their fire of being like, you're a liar, and just taking these conspiracy theories and making them bigger and bigger and bigger. And that, I think exploring that would have been much more interesting, of taking a little lie and how that little lie can then seed this huge conspiracy theory that isn't true, right? Where, you know, this movie doesn't really do anything. And then they have arguments over COVID. They have arguments over, you know, wearing a mask and doing this and the 6 feet. And I think in some ways I'm rambling as well here, but I'll cede some time, but definitely Ted is Gavin Newsom 100%, like, in a lot of ways. You know, if you look back to the big issues that the right had and was throwing mud at the left, it was Gavin Newsom locking down the state of California and then having parties and going to dinner and hosting, constituents and stuff like that. So he was definitely pulling from that. I just don't think that is valuable. And like you said, Dan, it doesn't do anything to change anybody's mind. All it does is reinforce some preconceived opinion. And that's where I think the movie dropped the ball, honestly, on this.
And I think like I've gotten some pushback with people saying like you don't like this because it critiques the left. Like there's so much bullshit to make fun of on the left. Like if you don't like, I'm fully aware of this. Like I talk about people like I just talked about Lena Dunham. Like that is the type of fucking person who says all this shit, and then you look at what she does, right? You look at how she treats people. None of what she puts out in the universe is what she is. Like it's so fake, and like there's so many people like that, and I think people on the right see that, and on some level they come to think that's what the entirety of the left actually is. And there are people, I mean, there's countless grifters on the right that do the same thing. I don't think Donald Trump doesn't give a fuck about gay people or trans athletes or any of that. He spent his whole life with like in a gay community essentially in New York, like with everybody. Like that's his life. Like Roy Cohn was a gay man, like was probably attracted to Donald Trump. That's why they started talking. Like Donald doesn't give a shit, but they found out that they can use people around him know they can use these things to create hatefulness and to divide people and to say, look over here. And his base celebrates hurting other people, right? So you take these things and then that's what you do. And that's how you keep people distracted while you do stuff that benefits you. So like everyone, there's grifting everywhere. And I think like stuff like The Boys, the way The Boys makes fun of like the left or the perceived left, or like how companies will co-opt like Pride Month and stuff like that. Like how much of a joke that is, because you look at it and after that's done, they don't give a single shit in anything they do, right? That stuff is all great to make fun of, but just picking George Floyd and COVID to build your movie around is just like unfathomable when there's so many other issues you could make a really funny movie about, right? And again, you listen to Ari Aster talk and he says he wanted to humanize, like he wants to humanize Joaquin Phoenix. That is the point of this movie. He fails. You turn him into this caricature of the right? He's this psychopathic killer who snaps and just wants to kill. Like, if you actually want to humanize him, and I'm not saying there aren't people like that on the right, but if you actually want to do that, do it. Don't make him kill Ted. Like, actually suck it up and be willing to tackle the movie with some nuance and maybe upset people in other ways. Like just getting rid of that character in that way, then it's like literally just this knockoff neo-Western little murder mystery is so fucking lazy and uninteresting. Like I've seen that movie 1,000 times, just better done. Like, I just don't understand if the goal is nuance and empathy, why do you make him a monster? Stone cold monster. And then you're still trying to push empathy the rest of the movie and with the ending. Like I don't care. So it's just like I feel like he acted against his own intentions, like with the movie, and that's what frustrates me. It's not like I'm not saying you can't show that empathy, you can't try to be like, and it's Austin Butler who says, in the movie, even evil, like whatever he says, like shows love, or like whatever he says about that. I feel like that is kind of what Astor is trying to say, but you just make him such a monster, it just is lost. That's all.
I guess my question would be to what Ari Aster said is, what is humanization? Like, it's not necessarily the same thing as empathy. So when he was trying to get humanization out of Joaquin Phoenix's character, was he trying to conjure up empathy at the very end, or was he meaning like, I want to show you how a monster like this can happen when it came to COVID, like how someone being isolated from this world and seeing all this stuff online can essentially in his mind be justified into doing all these things. Like I didn't feel any, I don't know if he was trying to feel empathy. I didn't feel anything. I looked at him at the very end. I said, this is all you. The reason why he's in the state he is at the end of the movie, which we can spoil now because we're 40 minutes into this, but is because of the protest sequence, right? Is because somebody filmed him causing a ruckus amongst some protesters and put that out online. And whoever it is, whether it's Antifa or someone else, comes in and sees that opportunity, like, hey, this is a town we can take advantage of, and we can put up our fake propaganda here. And because of that, because of his actions in the rest of the film, or earlier in the film, he is a vegetable at the very end of the movie. So I don't feel any empathy for him. He is a monster. So I don't get if he was trying to conjure up any empathy. Like, it seems stupid to
He
me.
was,
Like,
by his own words. That's like was his goal of the movie. I mean,
So I think that here's the thing is, I think that what he was trying to do. Sorry, I just like had a brain fart. When you look at the things that happened to him, right? It's almost like how someone becomes a school shooter, right? When you break down like when you talk about Kevin or something like that, or the adolescence that just came out, where is how did we get to this point? And I just think I totally understand what you're saying, Stone, and I do agree with you to a point, but I don't think it was handled really well because we don't give a shit about any of the other characters. And that's the problem. We don't care about his relationship with Emma Stone because she's a bitch. Like, I was like, she's whatever. And it's like, I don't relate to him because this wife is like, who is she? You know, he obviously loves her. What is their relationship though? We don't even know. She's not in the movie at all. And then like there's allusions to the relationship with Ted. They've had these problems in the past, but like none of that really ever gets fleshed out on screen until he gets smacked. And then that's like the part that sends him over the edge. And so I just feel like if you're going to humanize him or make him an empathetic character, like have these relationships actually mean something, because they don't mean anything on the surface. Who is the closest person to Joe? Like I'm literally asking you that. Like, well, who is the closest person to him?
Mother-in-law.
Honestly, yeah, probably him, or because that guy, the other police officer at the station. They have similar viewpoints with I feel like, as each other, and whenever something happens, they're down to go out there and let's get these rioters, kind of a thing.
But he is also a non-character because we don't know anything about him, and he's painted as like a
cartoon character.
Yeah,
they're all cartoon characters.
Yeah, but I don't think that's like, if you're gonna make this story, why are you making cartoon characters? Like,
because like I said, I think the only people who we're supposed to look at as someone we've maybe never seen before, because we didn't see them on the news because they don't get the attention they deserve, is Michael, the other police officer in the station, and also what's his name? Lodge, the homeless man. I mean, if you think about it, those are the two characters we see at the beginning and the end of the movie. That's who this film is about. Lodge is coming, even though these people care so much about humans, right? About Black Lives Matter and, saving lives with Pedro Pascal's character, with Ted. There's somebody in their town, in their small town, who needs help, right? And nobody pays him any attention. I'm not saying like everyone, when it comes to Michael's character, I believe he is a stand-in for how all of this should have been, like, actually a morally correct character who views everything like this. Because if you notice when the riots are happening, which I think, in my opinion, I didn't see it as like, oh, everyone's dumb on one side, everyone's this on. I think what Eddington showed me is that everything happened so fast. Like, they come into the office and they're like, what happened on the news? Did you see the news? No, I didn't see the news. What's going on now? They come in the next day. Like, there's people in the street. So it's just like, I understood. Now, obviously, I was in the medical field and I was very much, protect people from COVID. COVID happened very fast, which was a lot to process. Like, the government, it's funny because even with the Joe Biden administration, even with Trump administration, like, it's hard to trust them. It's hard to see that they have your best interest at heart. So when they're automatically just trying to shut down or change your life, it's hard to process. So I get that from people's perspectives. But when it comes to the protest sequences, if you notice, Joaquin Phoenix puts on like a bulletproof vest, like a riot vest, and the other guy's like full up in like complete riot gear. Michael, who knows a protest is happening, this could say two different things. One, they didn't necessarily care about him, which they do show that he's racist when it comes to the Indian officers that come into there. Guy, like, so like, don't you have somebody on your reserve who's like in a casino who's like drunk or something like that? Like, Joaquin and Guy are racist individuals, which I think factors into the whole George Floyd thing. Even though Ari Aster doesn't necessarily say, what happened to George Floyd is bad, we can see in this very small town that is miles and thousands of miles away from the George Floyd incident that something like that could happen in the city. Like, it is a real issue. But when Michael goes out to the protests, he's like chill. He's just looking at everyone and like not as aggressive as Guy and Joe Cross are. Like he understands why people are protesting. Like they ask him in the sheriff's station, like, are you good? Like, are you sad? He's like, yeah, man, it's a sad situation. Like I get it. Like it's a bummer. And he's completely okay with people protesting. He doesn't cause any violence. So in my opinion, like that's how this whole thing should have been viewed. That's the character that I connected with the most, because at the very end of this movie, which I think is a representation of COVID, he is literally scarred. Like the events of what happened in the world are on him, both internally and externally. And he didn't deserve that. Like it wasn't, in my opinion, he processed everything that happened in the world correctly, even though he didn't necessarily wear a mask, which I think he should have at certain points, maybe to get this point out there a little bit further. That would have been interesting. But I was watching to see like if he kept his distance, like 6 feet, stuff like that. But that's who I think the story is about, as well as Lodge. Like Lodge, even though all these people are like, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, Lodge comes up there and people are like, no, I don't have any money. Get off of me. You actually don't care about people in general. Like you are like, that's what the character of Ryan is so important to the story. And even I was noticing Sarah, which is the young girl in this, I was noticing that she had a connection with Michael, right? What is that? He's like, she was 18, stuff like that. It seemed like Sarah is so politically active, trying to do the right thing, that she might have befriended herself with the only Black person they had in their community in order to connect, because it sounds like to Michael that they didn't have a relationship in any way, even though that is the rumor that has been going around. It seems like she was trying to get close with him in order to maybe make some connection, in order to find out what she needs, what is the right thing to do, right? You should be out here with us. I'm projecting, what I believe is the world should be doing onto you. Like, why aren't you here? So I thought that their dynamic was very interesting as well. But yeah, like something my brother pointed out, it's very funny that we assume, which this is where I changed my mind a little bit. One thing I didn't like is that these people are shown vandalizing, or it's insinuated that they vandalized this town, right? We see a couple windows smashed, everything like that. We don't see them do that. That could have been Lodge. That could have been the homeless guy. We don't know who did that. So it automatically just they put two of the pieces together, and then the police are out there causing a ruckus in the middle of them.
I think it's implied that it is Lodge, because when he goes to the bar, the barrel is in the window, and then the other shop, there's a barrel in the window, right?
Imagine if they tried to help him and that didn't happen, and then it would not give the police an opportunity to go in there and to use a little bit of pushing and shoving, a little bit of violence to get their point across. Imagine if Lodge was actually looked at as a person rather than a problem that they just don't want to fix. Like they're more focused on running for mayor, they're more focused on their data center than actually helping the individuals of their town, which is what they should do as a mayor. Who is the most helpless person in their town? It's Lodge, but they don't care about him. And I think that speaks so much as to what Ari Aster is trying to say. Like I said, but that is I think what is important about this movie is that like sometimes people do put on a show because we're getting fed all of this social media at this one time in our lives, and we process our own anger, because I think that's very important that they show Joe Cross and his life. Like this is the humanization. It's like he has a miserable life, so he projects his own thoughts and beliefs in a very aggressive manner, probably because of what's going on at home. And you can assume that is every single character in this movie. A lot of people who are very animated might not have it all put together. We see Brian, the young man, is a nothing character. He is a pathetic individual who is just reciprocating things that he sees in articles. And I think that was not everyone. Like I said, I love Michael and I love what they did with his character, but I think people are spewing social media rather than themselves a lot of times when it came to this time period. And they didn't react the way they should.
I think what gets lost in the conversation is like everything that actually happened when people were just being like executed by the police. So like when you just kind of say everything you're saying and then just don't actually, like, a lot of the ways that I had someone in my comments, so I'm actually gonna make a video just for say, oh, did any of that bring George Floyd back to life? And like, not to hate on you, Stone, but I feel like that's sort of what you're missing the point of protest. Like protest is fucking performative. No shit. Like that is literally what protesting is. It is a bunch of people doing something for the world to look at it and say, hey, what's going on? Like, this is not some type of like breaking revelation. Like, I just don't understand the conversation. Like, that literally protest is inherently performative. Yes, that's the point, right?
But
like,
I think we see through two characters like a more performative, like it's not why they're protesting. I think it's more like obviously Brian is not protesting for the right reasons. He's protesting to get the girl. Like he literally viewed like is looking at her. It's not everyone, but I think that Ari Aster does add some nuance to it and saying like, hey,
I don't think he adds any nuance to the protesting. The entirety of the protests in this are painted as a joke. The entirety of the protesting in this movie is a joke. There's nothing serious about it. There's nothing genuine about it. The stuff they're saying, like, you're supposed to look at it and say, well, why are they protesting? Everything's fine there. So, like, what's the point of this? Like, it's supposed to look silly. And that's the way that they paint, like, stuff about, like, COVID as well. I believe it's like, it's all a punchline. And when you purposefully put this in a place where there is no COVID for the large majority, and there's barely any people that aren't white, right, in this town in New Mexico, right? But also there's nothing happening that these people should have a problem with. So why do they care? Why are they all doing this ridiculous protest, right? That these police then have to deal with, quote unquote. Like, that is how it's presented. I don't think that's even like really a question, and to not give any sense of like legitimacy to it is why I think the movie is just embarrassing, because there's no nuance. It's just, look how silly this is.
Can I ask you a question, Dan? Just out of curiosity, how do you think that he could have made the protests seem legitimate?
I think make it more genuine. Maybe put in a conversation with someone who's actually protesting that actually feels real, that isn't just condescending. Like, most of the voice of that stuff is through, that main girl, who's obviously just a complete caricature like every other person in this movie. So when you don't have a voice of what's happening that actually feels like they have a head on their shoulders, and like the movie itself is just, it's satire, so like it's just the point. But I think that's how you do it, right? Like, add something that feels real, or maybe show anything about what they saw that made them care. Like, show someone being like, show something to give some validity to it. And I think, like, again, you make this movie and there's no MAGA, there's no Trump, there's no years of rhetoric talking about supporting white supremacists and being backed by Nazis and being backed by the Klan. It's just, oh, look how silly this stuff is in 2020, ignoring the past 4 years and all the bullshit that's been said that's gotten people to this point, and all the people that have been fucking murdered that have gotten people to this point. Like, it's not some imaginary thing, right? And that's the point. So
Do you think that, like, I'm just curious too, because I'm just asking questions, because I felt that the protesting just, again, it just felt shoehorned in. Like, I appreciate everything you're saying, Stone, and I definitely can see from what you're saying about Michael. And I'll go back to him just not being a character. We don't know anything about him. We don't know anything outside of what we see through Joe's lens, really. And maybe like you said, I can't remember the girl's name, but I think that it would have been much more interesting if they would have put Ted or a political official leading the protests or encouraging the protests. And so that was an aspect that I thought was weird too, is because we don't get to see the inner workings of this group. They just show up and they're protesting, right? And so it's hard. I'm with you, Dan, in saying, like, it does feel like a caricature, because we don't get to see them have any real discussions outside of that party where the kids are drinking. And this just goes back to, like, my overall problem with the film is that for a movie that's 2.5 hours long, almost 2.5 hours long, there is all these other characters don't have any basis. There's no buildup, and they all feel like cartoon characters because no one other than Joe is giving any kind of development, any kind of real camera time. I mean, honestly, Brian is probably the only other one that we really get to see his character, because you're right. Like, he wants to get the girl, and he's parroting things that he sees that he thinks are going to impress her. And then at the end of the film, he gets the opportunity to save Joe, and he uses that for clout, right? And then he gets the things that he wants, right? So really, I mean, I could see this being a movie about him in a lot of ways too, of seeing how COVID affected him and how being at that age where you're impressionable and social media and peer pressure can influence your choices and what your ultimate goal is. And it seems to him, for that character, is to be loved, right? I mean, because we get the scene where he's at the table and it's played for laughs because it's actually kind of funny, but his dad seems like a real asshole, right? He calls him the R word and says, "Are you fucking stupid?" So I mean, I think that the movie could be framed through his lens as well, but there's just not enough development of these other characters. Like if Michael is the main character, and I do kind of agree with you, is like he's kind of supposed to be like the normal person in all this, right? Just the average person that's dealing with this and is just trying to live his life. Then we need to know more about him. We need to build his character up, and we need to find out why he feels the way he does. How does he truly feel about the George Floyd incident?
Otherwise, he feels like a prop.
Yeah.
Which is what the Native American character feels like in the movie. He feels like a fucking prop, right? To just drive the plot forward. So, like...
Right.
Like, I do think it's not like spoon-fed to you, but I do think it is important that like a conversation around why people need to wear masks and why you need to be afraid of COVID is because of people with respiratory issues that really could get affected by the virus. And I think it's powerful that obviously our lead character has something like that. And it is insinuated at the end of this movie that he has COVID. I think there's very integral scenes and vital to his character where he like drives away and tries to get a COVID test, turns off his location, doesn't want anybody to know that. And then he doesn't even look at the results when they come in. Like he's terrified. Like all these people who say, no to masks and everything, in the back of their mind, they know COVID's real. And they're scared. They're scared to get it. And I think that was a powerful moment when it came to this movie. But one thing I think was there's two things I think was maybe too much, and it could have been, which is I had this at a 4.5 out of 5, and there's two things that really didn't connect with me at all. And we spoke about it a little bit. It was funny. I was listening to a podcast talk about this, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we really liked the movie, right?" And they did not mention what I'm about to mention because it's not really an important part of this movie, in my opinion. Well, it's important, and I get what Ari Aster's trying to say, but it could have been fleshed out more. It could have been cut all together. Is Emma Stone and Austin Butler? I think maybe that would have been the more interesting movie to a lot of people, is the fact that COVID did add a lot of vulnerability to people and open up a lot of us to individuals on the internet. Like we're looking for help. We're looking for somebody to talk to about what's going on. We're looking to figure out our own thoughts and everything. There's so many different opinions out there that when you connect with someone who might not necessarily be the best person in the world, they can do a pretty good job at coercing you to follow them and be a part of whatever, I guess, a cult that they're a part of. So I think that I find it interesting. I think what you're saying about actually making these characters, actually making these people's characters and knowing more about them, especially when it comes to Michael, I do agree. I wish we knew a little bit more about him. I think you could have cut Austin Butler and Emma Stone from this movie. Really, you don't need Emma Stone to realize that Joaquin Phoenix is a pathetic individual. You really don't need to do that. But yeah, that was one thing. And then also the data center. It's this whole idea that they are building. I believe they're building it on the sacred land, right? With the Indian reservation that's there as well. That's why they're there at the meeting at the very end when they open it.
That's what it seems like. Yeah, I agree.
I think I didn't necessarily know what he was trying to say about that because, well, I think what Ari Aster was trying to say is there's a lot of individuals of these town, even though they really do care about people, sometimes it's performative and they choose when and where they want to care. And I guess protesting is a what do you call it, Dan? Sorry.
Like I would say it is inherent, like it is performance. Like that's the point of protest, right? Like you're not doing protest to not be heard, right? Like
right. I guess it's the fact that you're protesting for certain lives that matter, but none of these people who look up to Pedro Pascal's character, Ted, care about the fact that he's trying to build a data center on an Indian reserve. Like people pick and choose what, when, and where. Some people. I'm not saying everybody, but I think this film shows us that people pick and choose when and who they want to care about people.
But
And I think
that's like the all lives matter argument, right? Like that's essentially what you're saying. Which, like, again, ignores any and all context around like what was happening in the country and the scale at which it was happening. And this is all supported by data. So like I feel like that's the danger of doing that, because there's nothing these people can do, and that's very much the point. There's nothing these people can do that's going to stop what that company is doing. But the protests that took place, despite how they're painted in this movie, had a tangible effect on like a variety of factors around police brutality, police killings. It actually, and it depends on the state. In some red states, killing has got worse because cops were angrier. But there was a lot more body cameras were introduced. I think there was a lot more like regulation. A lot of the stuff is being rolled back now because we're moving backwards as a country. But like there were tangible results. So that's why like painting it as silly again feels just wrong and ignoring reality.
Like to me, like this movie gets really extreme at the very end. There's not really any humor anymore, and I think that happens once Michael gets locked up. Right, that's when the movie takes a turn, and you're realizing just how evil Joaquin Phoenix's character is, how evil Joe Cross is. So, and I think that, in my opinion, that maybe might be the most important moment of the film. How people can, I mean, Joe Cross uses his wife as a piece of her past as a piece of propaganda for his campaign. It's again using people in order to get the narrative out there that you want. And I think that's what, like I said, when it comes to Michael and when it comes to COVID, or when it comes to Michael and when it comes to Joe Cross, I think that the main messages that, in my opinion, Ari Aster should have put out there is what is happening to George Floyd, what happened to him was real, and it's not right. And I think we get that personally through Michael's character and how he is dealt with in this movie. Like you would think, oh yeah, it's funny, right? The protests and everything like that. No, it's fucking real. And you see that follow on later in the movie. And also the fact, like, yeah, it is kind of humorous looking back on it, be like, oh, 6 feet, like back off. Having a personal connection to that, I think, in some times in this movie, it is quite humorous. But then when you have the main character who's been neglecting all these protocols and doesn't think it's right, when you have him insinuate, who knows, maybe he would have died with his asthma problem at the very end of the movie. Fucking got stabbed in the head. But
that's like, look, real quick, that to me is one of the biggest misses of the film, right? Like why doesn't he have him just collapse with an asthma induced attack by COVID? Like wouldn't that say a lot more than having him getting stabbed in the head? Like I think from like I mean, you obviously were affected by the themes of the film. It seems like you obviously have really delved into like the psyche of these characters, and I give you credit for that, Stone. But I think that like you're doing a lot of work that isn't there. Like just to be honest with you, like I think that you are doing digging that Ari Aster doesn't deserve to give you. Like you may be correct, and I think in some cases you are, but I don't think that he gives enough context for any of this. And I think that I'm glad you're giving him, I guess, the benefit of the doubt or enough. What's that? I can't think of the word, but my biggest issue is I don't think he deserved that. He had 2.5 hours to tell this story, and it's so scattered and all over the place, and nothing is coherent enough that it's like just make one point. Just give me one solid point in this movie. Give me one solid follow through of the theme that I can latch onto. And it could, I don't care. It could be that the left is performative. If that's what you're trying to say, okay, then just do that. But instead, he's doing half-assing each of these things. And for me, it's like, if you're pulling that away, like that's the beauty of film, I think, is that we can all kind of get something out of it. But if you're making me work that hard where I'm the only one, or I have to dig super hard, or I have to read between the lines, that to me is not a quality film. That is to me, that is like the antithesis of a quality film. I'm not saying I need to be spoon fed anything. That's not what I'm saying. But the context I think has to be there. In like, even, us talking about like, did the protesters break the window? Well, I think it's pretty obvious they didn't, because that's to me is context. Like, that is good context, because you can look at the film, you can break it down and say, well, there's a barrel in the window of the bar and the homeless guy is in there. There's a barrel in the window of the guy's trinket shop, whatever that shop is. And it's to me, it's obvious that I can't remember what's the homeless person's name again.
Lodge.
It's clear to me that he did. That is good context. What is not good context is the, in my opinion, all the COVID stuff, all the riot stuff, all the protest stuff, because we don't know why anyone is doing what they're doing. Like, we don't truly know, except for Joe Cross. We don't know why Guy feels the way he does. Like, we don't know why Michael feels the way he does. We don't, like you said, it's implied that he doesn't have a relationship with her, but we have the only conversation that we ever get between him and that girl is her literally yelling in his face that he needs to come to her side. That's the only really conversation that we ever see them have. And he has no reaction to that. He just stands there and looks at her. That's not enough for me. It just isn't.
And I think I agree with you. And my problem is, like, I feel like the movie had the time to do these things. Like, you put time into, like, I don't know if he made Beau is Afraid and just was like, I can do anything, because people like I love that movie, but it is definitely indulgent, right? Like, it's definitely him just saying, I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna make what I want. I think that movie really works. I think he did that even more here. And it's like, everything with Austin Butler and Emma Stone is a waste of time in this movie. I also think, straight up, the use of Austin Butler, as much as they did marketing, is disingenuous. It is misleading marketing. And I've seen multiple people say, I was just going to watch this movie for Austin Butler because I saw him in these ads. They made this TikTok account for him to market the movie, and he's 7-8 minutes on screen. Like, that's a joke to me. Like, that is misleading, which pisses me off. And I think, like, I like the point. To me, Austin Butler is sort of like a Trump in this. Austin Butler is a person that comes along and sees, people that are desperate or scared or uncertain, and just knows what to say and how to say it and how to, make you feel heard, right? And not alone. And he doesn't actually have anything behind what he has to say, but he can manipulate people, right? I felt like that was the point, but, like, they're in their own movie. They're in their own world. Like, and if you want to make that movie and make this like a non-violent movie, even that focuses on that relationship stuff and that story, do that. But it just distracts. And Emma Stone is completely wasted. She has nothing to do at all. She's just like a zombie. And there is no, like, I'm tired of relationships in movies that aren't relationships. You don't know why they ever liked each other. You don't know the first fucking thing about them as a couple. Like, it's so uninteresting, and it happens so much, and it bothers me. But to wrap, I just think I agree with you, Brian, and I think that the time was there. It just got misallocated to just kind of show a little bit of so many things.
In my opinion, the reason why their relationship is uninteresting is because Joe Cross is such a terrible person. And also his mother, which we see at the very end, she is weirdly a conspiracy theorist, and then takes the opportunity of
that's her mother, no?
Yeah, that's her mother.
Her mother, my bad. Her mother taking the opportunity of, I guess, Joe Cross becoming the mayor to use him and whatever income is coming in from the data center to bump up her life and become a really wealthy individual. But she's still like a conspiracy theorist at the very end. But I thought, just in general, Emma Stone, unfortunately, because of what has happened in her past, which I believe is from her father, which is very sad, and it forces you to live with your mother. Like, I think it's very horrifying that obviously something happened to Emma Stone, I believe, with her father, and then she has a picture of her father glorified in her house because her mother is living with her. Like, that's terrifying stuff. And it seems like Emma Stone, she's been making these dolls since she was 12, 13 years old. That's when it happened. As soon as she started doing these very disturbing dolls, that's when the incident happened with her father. And it seems like she's always been this way. She's a shell. There's nothing really inside of her anymore. She can barely talk, barely function until Austin Butler comes around. He just has the right words. So I think it says a lot about Joe Cross, the fact that you've lived with this girl for how long? How long have you all been married? And you're just now like curious of why she's acting the fucking way she is, because Austin Butler comes around and he talks about obviously what happened to these kids when, or what supposedly happened to him when he was younger and how he overcame that. And finally, for the first time ever, we see a little bit of characterization out of Emma Stone, and she actually acts like a normal fucking person. It doesn't seem like that bothered Joaquin Phoenix at all. He just wants her for a kid. It seems like that's all he's looking up. Like, hey, how can I ask my spouse for a child? But as soon as that happens, when he actually gets to hear her talk like a normal person for once, he's like, wait, did something happen? That's a terrible husband. There is nothing there. There couldn't have been anything there because of what happened to Emma Stone. And just because Joe Cross, in my opinion, does not care about her. So I believe that's why there's a lack of development with their relationship, because there is no development in their relationship. What you're seeing on the screen.
You're trying to empathize with, get the audience to empathize. I can't speak. If you're trying to get the audience to empathize with the character, why not give him at least a hint of something with because I mean, isn't that a good way to connect the character with your audience? Like, otherwise you're just like painting again. He feels like this caricature of the right? He doesn't like, and I couldn't be further away from that, but like I wouldn't mind seeing him be a real fucking person.
Yeah.
Like, and not just a cuck to laugh at, which is what he is. Literally, the end of the movie is that. Like,
I don't want to.
He does bring her flowers at one point, so maybe he like somewhere in there cares, but he's like, I don't know.
Cool. Well, I don't know. Yeah. Like,
so I'm going to sound like a nerd, and I don't want to sound condescending. And God, I hope your listeners don't hate me for saying this, but Ari Aster is a esoteric filmmaker, and this is a prosaic film, right? This should be very prosaic. This is a movie that should be, grounded, based in fact, very mundane. But what he tries to do is bring that esoteric filmmaking to a very straightforward film. And that is where it doesn't work for me. Something like Beau is Afraid is awesome because it's completely esoteric. It's out there. It's goofy. It's crazy. It's, it can be tongue in cheek at the same time while being very serious. You haven't seen Beau is Afraid, so I don't want to spoil it, but there's a scene at the end of the movie that is just like, both you're like, what the f- is happening? But also like, this is hilarious, but also like, huh? And he tries to do that multiple times in this movie, and it doesn't work because things in this movie need to have a prosaic explanation, a very down to earth, meaningful way to explain things. And it just doesn't. And so when it comes to their relationship specifically, like, we don't see her, and this is what drives me so fucking nuts about this movie. We don't see her in any scene really without him. How is she dealing with this when he's not there? How is her past affecting her present? We don't see any of that. And it just, when you, as a viewer, I feel like I don't care. Like, this is going to sound terrible, but like, I don't really care that she was molested by her dad because I don't know who she is. Yes, it's an awful thing that happened to her, but how it's affecting her and her family and stuff. It's like, it's also like, well, why the fuck is she not dealing with this? Like, why is she not seeking help? Why, so it just, to me, the whole movie is just because this isn't the type of movie that Ari Aster can make effectively. That's my opinion. That's why it doesn't work for me. That's why I don't think that this is necessarily a good movie. I'm going to give it probably a generally positive review, either 5.5 or a 6 to 6.5 out of 10, because there are moments that I think Joaquin Phoenix's performance is excellent. The fragment of the time that Austin Butler's in there, he's so charismatic, and you're just like, your eyes are just fixed to him. And I do think that the end is like really well shot. Like the actual like gunfight and stuff at the end, I think was really cool. But it's very brutal and very realistic. But at the same time, like, as a complete and holistic film, I just don't think it's very well constructive. And you mentioned this like before, Dan. Ari Aster needs to get him a fucking editor. Like, he needs to have someone who will keep him in check, I think. And as much as I, want filmmakers to go out and make what they want to, sometimes you got to be reined in, right? Like sometimes you need someone to tell you no.
And the thing is, the movie like this will like ultimately kind of hurts what he wants to be pushing, right? Like this is gonna flop in a massive way, and like I think there might be a little bit more hesitation to give someone like him whatever amount of money it was to and 2.5 hours to make something like this, and to tell a risky story, right? Because if you tell a risky story well, and this gets good word of mouth, maybe it does well, sure. But if you tell it with this attitude that he's brought, it's going to turn people off, and some people will like it. I get that for sure, but it doesn't help like filmmakers trying to do this kind of stuff. But I also will say, like, I agree with you in that, like, there are certain moments, like, I wish this was just a comedy. Like, I wish this was something I could just fucking laugh at. Like, and there were parts of it that I thought were hilarious. Like, I said, him falling through this fucking ceiling onto Geronimo's bones. Like, I was dying. And like the scene at the end with the the performative Kyle Rittenhouse kid with his fucking live stream going, shooting and missing over and over again. Like that's like literally the hardest I've laughed all year. It was hilarious, but like it's just so much of it feels so tone deaf. I just don't know he was the guy to make this. Like, and it bothers me because there was a lot of individual moments I really did find funny.
Yeah, that Brian character is the funniest part. Like when he gave the speech and he's like, "White privilege, I shouldn't even be up here right now." I was like, that was pretty funny.
Like, and I enjoyed that aspect of it. I don't know.
I'll say when you're talking about Emma Stone, one thing I didn't necessarily get about her character was like she is a shell because of what happened. I didn't necessarily understand what happened with her and Ted Garcia. Because obviously she wasn't pregnant, like that was falsified. But it seemed like maybe she tried to approach Ted in some way and have a relationship with him, but it just never
Another thing that's
happened.
Not made clear or fleshed out, and you're just like, and it's the same thing with the like Antifa stuff at the end. People don't even know what that like. There's so many different things that could be. Like my assumption was they were working with the company to cause a distraction or whatever. But like people are just kind of like, I don't know, like.
I honestly thought it was the CIA or like you said, like some kind of hired mercenaries with the company that was taking this. Like, oh, we can play this off as it's Antifa, right? Like, we're gonna blame Antifa for this. But like the way that so again, this is so esoteric because he's making us make assumptions and fill in the gaps instead of, again, just you can give context to the film where there's clues laid. My understanding, this is the way I look at it, or way I am putting it together. Maybe it'll come together on a second viewing. Is that they were dating him and her, like he showed an interest in her. Yeah,
because she was 16.
Yeah, her father impregnated her, and her mom was like, you're sleeping with Ted, and so she was like, I'm going to try to sleep with Ted to make it look like, or maybe she did sleep with Ted. I don't know, but it seems like it was her father's child. And so she got an abortion because obviously she was raped by her. That's the way I portrayed it, or at least took it to be. But again, things are not laid out.
That could have been the case. I think that so the two pieces you would have to put together, because what happened to her with Ted happened at 16. I remember that. Mm-hmm. But then also it's when she started making the dolls. Maybe her dad was doing it to her for multiple years. But to me, that's interesting. Like filling in the gaps, like not even gaps, but adding your own not beliefs, but thoughts to what is happening in the film, I think makes it interesting. Like when it comes to, I think this movie is damning towards the right, especially towards the end. Because I'm not huge into politics and Antifa and all that shit, but what I think is Antifa is just like it is the best thing to happen to the right, because it is the most extreme individuals that performatively are acting like they're left in order to, or not even left, protesting, right? They're aggressively protesting in order to make these individuals look bad. So essentially, it is the right fucking trying to murder the right at the very end of the movie. Like that is what is happening. Well, no, and I'm just like, this is what they deserve.
Real Antifa is not on the right. Real Antifa is like anti-fascist. Like it was like, I think it came out of like the they were like anti-fascist skinheads that were like skinheads who were not Nazis, who fought against Nazis, who were willing to use violence. I think it came out of Oakland, and I think it was a lot of the stuff that Freaky Tales was about. But like, Antifa is a real thing, but Antifa also gets then blamed when things happen that are violent, or like that's who people like to point the finger at, and it's all the like George Soros stuff and all that. But like, I think the punchline there is this is the conservative fever dream, right? Of this highly trained Antifa unit flying in on a fucking private jet, like they can afford that, like to cause all this instability. And the one sequence I did like was I loved at the end of the action sequence when he was going down the street with his assault rifle, and the camera kept
that was cool.
Pivoting out. To me, like that was kind of the personification of like conservative fear, of this fear of like something's in the corner, something's in the dark. Mm-hmm. You're in this town that's fucking empty. There's nothing there except this force that is fake and almost feels imaginary, and you're just terrified, and you're looking all around you, and there's nothing there, but you're so afraid, hiding behind your rifle. And I feel like that was, but again, you said it's like the movie doesn't have to be damning of the right. Like if you actually want to make this movie, is the point to be damning of the right, quote unquote? Like I don't know. I don't think from the movie he describes it's supposed to be damning of anyone, but it just feels lazy. I don't know. It's
like you said though, like whatever, even if they aren't Antifa at the very end, like my brother even said maybe they're CIA, whoever those people are, they are essentially helping the right in some way to make the protesters look way more terrible than they are. So the fact that they're trying to kill Joe Cross, I found that very powerful, and being like, the reason why they're there is because of Joe Cross, because of what happened with the protesting, because he did not handle that correctly. They saw an opportunity to come into this small town that, I mean, there's two things, right? It's him in the protesting, but then also the video of him tackling Lodge, which I thought was very, very important to note, that fucking Pedro Pascal didn't care at all that Joe Cross tackled Lodge. He didn't give a shit about him. He said, get this motherfucker out of here. But when it helps Ted Garcia's campaign and to make Joe Cross look like a terrible individual, he's like, release that video. He doesn't give a shit. He doesn't give a shit about Lodge, but it helps him in his campaign to do that. But those are two instances that prop up this very small town in New Mexico to the public, to the world. And it allows these individuals at the very end of the movie to come in and wreak havoc and almost kill Joe Cross. So I think that in a way, Ari Aster is saying, like, there is a right way to do this, Joe. Like, this stuff did happen, and Joe, which is a lot of people in the world, handled it with aggression and not empathy, and didn't understand why these people were doing what they're doing because they can't fucking talk to each other. So, and I think that was a very powerful scene when it came to Brian talking with his family. Because if you notice that, obviously Brian he's a fake character. He reminded me of that guy in Good Will Hunting, where he's just reciprocating like what he read in his textbook, and he's like, you're real fucking smart, are you? So that's what he's doing. But I think behind Brian, when he's talking, you see like a full case of guns. Like obviously his family is way this way. Brian is trying to do the right thing, or trying to speak the right message to his parents, but it doesn't know how to communicate it. It's fucking all the other way. So I think that Ari Aster, in my opinion, really gets his thoughts out there when it comes to Michael, when it comes to COVID. Like, police brutality is a very serious thing. And I think in my opinion, he shows that. But then also, especially towards racist police brutality, but then also the fact that COVID fucking did existed, even though it was humorous at times, there's a reason why we were covering up. And we see that in Joe Cross. But it's the fact that these people just can't fucking talk to each other. And if they did that and boiled down to it, maybe everything could have worked out. And maybe whoever these people are at the very end of the movie wouldn't have shot up Joe Cross.
I think, Dan, I think this movie is trying to tell us that our enemy is big tech, right? Left or right. I think Dan alluded to that in his video. Because the more I thought about it, we see that plane flying into town with the logo on it. That is the company that owns the
Solid Gold Magikarp.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, so to me, And like if we look at big tech, like let's just be honest, right? Like everyone on the left hates Elon Musk. But 10 years ago, guess who everybody loved on the left? Elon Musk. He was building Teslas. He was pushing electric cars. He was moving away from fossil fuels. In 2020, everyone loved Mark Zuckerberg because they felt like he helped swing the election to Biden, right? He was a supporter of Biden. And guess who in 2024 was at the White House at UFC fights? Mark Zuckerberg. So like these are, I think what he's trying to say is like, he doesn't do it in a very good way, but essentially big tech, because the only people that big tech cares about is themselves and power and gaining, money. And that's just, I mean, that's the way that the corporate entities have been for ever, is, and the same thing with president. And it's why I hate politics now, is because it's all about power and money, and it doesn't care. Nobody cares about the people. It's all about utilizing movements and taking advantage of people who are less fortunate to get yourself into power, right? It's twisting the narrative. We're seeing it now with, I don't get very political anymore, but especially not on my podcast or on any of my social media, because I don't think that anybody wants to hear truth or learn. But we're seeing with everything that Trump's done in the last 6 months is the antithesis of what he promised 6 months prior. And then everyone on MAGA is getting pissed. And it's like, well, it's your fault because you trusted a liar who has been known to lie. And so it's all been the same for the last, my entire life, right? No matter who is in charge, it's all about power. It's all about money. And I think that that's kind of what Ari Aster was kind of trying to say. But what he put on the bookends of the movie, it just doesn't match what is in the actual consistency of the movie. Right. Because in all honesty, what we should be looking at the BLM riots or protests is, like you said, Dan, what is at the heart of that? Like, what is causing that to happen? In this town, like, it would have really been actually beneficial if we saw some police brutality, right? Outside of them throwing Michael. And like that whole thing is, like, again, like I said, it's a completely separate movie, like, from what we experienced. Like, I actually found that kind of fun and interesting watching the cat and mouse take place there, but it didn't feel like it fit into what was happening in this film. Sorry.
I wanted to ask you guys. So you mentioned a little bit. So was you talked about a plane? I remember the plane. Was the plane that came in when it had those Antifa, whoever those people on? Did that have the company's logo on it?
Yes.
The data.
Yeah.
Oh.
The hand or whatever.
Yeah, they were just mercenaries. They were not actually Antifa.
And interesting, but they were there for distractions, which we're seeing now in 2025. That distractions are happening in order to get an agenda or to forget things that are happening. I did not notice that. That's very interesting. That, like you said, I'm putting the pieces together, right? That the whole thing is about big tech, and I think it is a very powerful shot there at the very end. That I sent Dan a picture of this. Maybe you could talk me through. I mean, it's not really important to our conversation now. I've gotten what is it called? Cinema Score, like, booklets before that's like, hey, score this movie for us. I've gotten things like that, but it seemed like what I got at my screening was a QR code from A24 that said, hey, let us know what you thought about the movie, which I've never gotten that from a studio. I've done Cinema Score before, but I've never done that from an actual studio, which was very interesting.
They probably want to use you for their marketing.
That's my wife. Yeah, that's my wife, because it was funny because there's like a lot of questions, and I literally looked over. I'm like, the credits are like, the lights turned on. I was like, please don't do that for A24 anymore. I want to leave. It's very late at night. But I do think the final shot with this all being about big tech is really powerful. The fact that this data center is essentially bigger than what Eddington is, and you care about your town so much, but now you are literally smaller because of the actions that you have taken, or your priorities are not about the people at all.
And not to elongate this conversation, and I apologize, but one thing that he mentions briefly and they gloss over is the climate change aspect of all this, right? Like, what we're learning now is, like, these AI, like, these data service centers just consume so much water, where it's like, we don't even really have enough water in these places to keep these things functioning and allow people to have drinkable water. That's never, I mean, it's said in passing, but it's never really addressed. And that to me is like an even bigger issue at this point, right? Like, and he just kind of hand waves it. He mentions it.
Yeah. And what do you think they'll choose when which of those is more important comes around? And the thing is, and the thing that's hard with the whole tech message now is like you have Peter Thiel is largely running a lot of what's happening right now. It's the guy who's trying to buy Washington D.C. They're trying to sell Washington D.C. to Peter Thiel. Like that's a real thing they're talking about. And like Palantir, this thing he's created, like the amount of defense contracts they've signed, and like they're being used already by the IDF. Like they're being used to. That stuff is evil and it's dangerous, and like it's being incorporated into our government now, in front of us. And I don't know. It's just it feels really weird making a generic hand wave statement about that when like something very specific is happening. And like I also will say, Ari Aster, I think just did a podcast or an interview where he said, given the last 6 months or so, like he wishes sort of he could have like rewritten this, and like I respect that and I get it and I understand. The other thing that hasn't been talked about a lot is this initial idea came to him a long time ago. I think he wanted to make this like before Hereditary, but you know he really fleshed it out obviously after COVID and all, and that's where like all the political stuff came in. But all that to be said, I don't know. I would have been interested to see the movie he made today if he tried to make this.
I'm saying, well, I'm trying to look up when Eddington began production. And I mean, it was before Trump was even in office, so he probably didn't think that Trump was going to get reelected. So he's like, okay, that's interesting. I will say, Dan, you made 3 videos about this, and I've done a very good job avoiding them because I wanted to hear your thoughts here, and I think we've had a good discussion so far. Maybe a good way to finish this is I thought it was very interesting, but I also swiped away because I want to hear your thoughts at all. But what was your video that you just made about the poster and Eddington and why you think this movie's called Eddington?
Yeah, it started because someone asked me about the poster essentially. And it's very simple. It's like the 2 bison running off a cliff. I feel like that's just, you can probably say it's representative of the political parties in America or people that are polarized on either side. When that happens to bison, it's normally because the herd is spooked or purposely driven off the cliff.
Yeah, there you go.
To kill them. And I think that's a super simple message. I was kind of reading about the movie, and in terms of the title, Arthur Eddington was basically this scientist who, I think in 1915, Einstein came out with his theory of general relativity. And then he kind of was pushing for someone else to do the experimentation needed to actually prove it. Mm-hmm. Then obviously World War I happened. There was a lot of like kind of chaos in the scientific community. Someone was going to do it and ended up getting all of their like tech that they had for it or equipment stolen by the Russian Tsar or something. It was something like that happened. But anyway, in 1919, I think Arthur Eddington was able to do the experiment needed, which basically was setting up in Brazil and this island off the coast of Africa. And basically, when a solar eclipse happened, they took pictures of the stars like behind the sun. And then they compared them with pictures they took at night. And what they were able to realize when they compared those 4 sets of pictures was they were able to see that the light was basically being bent by the gravity of the sun. So it was able to, and Einstein had specifically said it was like 1.75 arc meters or something like that. I forget, arc seconds, I believe, that it would be different. And they were like the set from Africa and the set from Brazil were on either sides of that. And then in 2017, but basically this is when Einstein had his theory proved and became Einstein. Like this was literally the moment that like pushed him forward. But what I said was, in terms of the movie, I think the movie is very much about like discovering the sun's gravity, right? Like seeing what is bending the light, like what is changing our perception of reality, and understanding those hidden forces that are at play, and whether that be propaganda or just stuff you see online that shapes your point of view or creates paranoia. Your individual reality is always being morphed by your algorithm, your friend group, your world, like everything you absorb, right? That's catered to you. And in the world of AI, that'll be even worse. So that was kind of how I thought he might have just liked the fucking name. I don't know, but I
Dude,
thought that
hell of a research you doing there. Nice job.
Dan always brings the research. I brought my own research, and this is completely off topic. Can I throw this out there real fast? Because when you initially texted me and was asking,
what if I said no? Like you can't.
Dude,
Just... Good.
No, it's okay. I'm just,
No, we're good.
So like a lot of other people that at least people I value on Film Talk don't like this movie, but the main critics, like I'm talking like the elite critics. So like I went through and I screenshotted like Alison Wilmore at New York Magazine, Stephanie Zacharek at Time Magazine, Esther Zuckerman at the Daily Beast, Brian Tallarico at RogerEbert.com, David Fear at Rolling Stone, all love this movie. Like just waves of the like elite critics are just like sucking this up. So I guess that puts you in pretty good standing there, Stone, however you view it. But
please share more now.
I mean, you're with the elite critics, but it's just funny because like a lot of our mutuals and people kind of feel the way that Dan and I feel. I just think that it's a weird gulf like between like the like New York Times and like these really, really big critics are just loving this. They're eating up Eddington.
we have to get the opinion of the guy who said that Fantastic Four is like Interstellar and to see what he thinks.
Honestly, I know one person who is not going to like this movie. I don't know if she's watched it yet, but Lil Katie TV is going to be very disappointed with how much Austin Butler's in this fucking movie.
Yes.
Yeah. 5 minutes, if that. Yeah. Jeez.
She's going to be disappointed. Gonna be disappointed.
I don't understand the marketing.
This is why I like movies.
What did you say, Stone?
They didn't know how to market this. Sorry, I feel like I'm lagging just a little bit. But this, like, conversations like this are more fun, in my opinion, even though this is about a lot of really serious subject matter. Like, this is why films are interesting, because you can interpret it in different ways, watch the exact same thing, different life experiences. And like, I come from a smaller town, which is a cool perspective, I think, where you guys come from a larger city. So just seeing that, I feel like it's awesome. And I don't think every movie should be Interstellar level, or if we have one critique about Superman, everyone's like, fuck you, Snyder monkey bot. And I'm like, I said that James Gunn did a good job. Did you not watch the movie?
If people are thinking we didn't like Superman because of those last two videos, and I'm like, we all liked it. Like, I liked it a lot. I mean, it's unfortunate, but
dude, Brian, I don't know if you saw the video, but basically I just said, hey, I understand why James Gunn put so much in here, and I think he did a really good job at it, but I understand why he did it. Basically is what I was saying. And someone's just like, Snyder boy. I'm like, I literally say in the video, he does a good job. I say it.
That's a whole nother conversation, but like that movie is another, like every once in a while there's a movie that comes out that just breaks me with the way that people talk about it, because there's zero nuance. You have to either love it or you hate it. And there's ulterior motives for everything. You can't just be like on the context of the film. Like Dan and I had a really good conversation. Like Dan likes it more than I do. I think it's a good movie, but like I had my issues with it. It's like, I can rate that. I can give it 3.5 stars. It's still a positive review. It doesn't have to be a 5 out of 5. Like,
dude, it goes back to what I was saying about star ratings are just fucking stupid and pointless.
I told my brother about that, man.
Well, because everyone hyper fixates and then they don't listen to anything you're saying. Because like all they have is, oh, this person's star rating is higher or lower than what I said, so fuck them, or they're right, or it's just
like you. I think something profound that you said is, I could really like a 2.5 star movie. Like, you legit could.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I like The Beekeeper. I think The Beekeeper is a solid 2.5 movie. Ain't anything profound, but I had a fun time watching.
Yeah, it doesn't mean it's a great script or well edited or well shot or well anything, but I had fun watching it. I don't know.
At current time in your life, you were enjoying it. Ryan, I wanted to ask you, where exactly did you have a conversation with Dan at? Do you have like a podcast or something, or?
Yeah, it was at the Midnight Film Review podcast. Yeah, that's where we conversed.
Okay. Sorry, you broke up there. Say it one more time.
Midnight Film Review podcast.
Okay, I got review. One more time. I'm so sorry.
Midnight Film Review Yeah.
All right.
It's-
Sorry.
You can get it. You can get it on Spotify. You can get it on Apple Podcasts, Google Play. Pretty much anywhere you get podcasts, you can find the Midnight Film Review.
You just got me so annoying.
Yeah, you're so annoying. But also, Brian, can you drop your regular handle too for people?
Midnight Film Review. You can find me.
Wow, Dan, really annoying there.
You can find me on TikTok at Midnight Film Review. Same thing with Instagram. I finally got an Instagram video to actually do well, which I was proud of myself.
Doing some black magic over there? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I took my shirt off, so I think that had something to do with it. But
Nice. Okay.
no, it was a Superman video, and it was actually the one where I talk about the similarities between Superman and the Dark Knight.
Yeah, that was really good. As someone who's like, there's stuff to criticize about the Dark Knight, and it's one of those things where like people don't accept that, but like I always enjoy seeing that kind of stuff about it.
Yeah, I think in my opinion, it's the best superhero movie ever made, but it's also not flawless. Like there's, I mean, Christopher Nolan to me is a really awesome director and a really bad writer.
Did you guys get okay, maybe this is a good way to end this. I don't know. Kind of like your podcast, Brian, where you talk about different things beforehand. Like, what did you guys think about the whole Odyssey tickets going on sale a year in advance? Is that good?
I don't know what. I mean, why would it be bad?
I don't know. It's just it's strange. I feel like that's one of the reasons why.
Worse, but I guess the thing is maybe you could buy a ticket and then not be able to go, but you can just return it. No, and then but I will say I saw people are fucking like scalping them and reselling them for like 100, which is just like you're a piece of shit. Like truly, just you're a slug.
It was cool because I didn't realize this, but my brother told me he actually bought some for me because I was like, damn, awesome. He bought me like 70mm tickets in Nashville, which was the closest thing to him. So like, that's cool.
Yeah, that's
really cool. I was like, thanks, dude. He didn't get any for my wife, so I'm like, sorry, Leah.
It's gonna be special, I think. I mean,
the thing I think is going to be hilarious is if for some reason it gets pushed back.
Yes, that is the interesting thing. Which Nolan, I think they're done shooting it. I think he finished like early, so I feel like he's pretty good with putting his stuff out there on time.
Oh no, he is. He's one of those directors, and it's why it's why studios love working with him. Is that he meets the time frame.
I genuinely think that's why Beyond the Spider-Verse got delayed because the Chris Miller came out and basically said, "Hey, we pushed back because it was only pushed back like 2 or 3 weeks yesterday." But he's like, "It's better for IMAX screens." So I'm wondering if anything with the Odyssey factored into that because it's obviously IMAX. That's going to be IMAX's baby, and they're going to cradle it and they're going to give it a bottle and they're like, "Mr. Nolan, however long you want," So we'll see.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you guys an interesting way. Dan, are you okay if I wrap up? You want to say anything else?
No, I was going to say really fast. Sorry. One other piece of quick news I wanted to say was, and this is in honor of Connor, they're making a remake of the Thomas Crown Affair with Michael B. Jordan. I think he's directing it, and Taylor Russell just left.
Oh,
yeah. You know why she left?
Said creative differences.
Interesting. I thought that was an interesting reason.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see if more comes out about that, but yeah.
I'm not. This is going to sound like I'm joking, but do you think it might have to do with nudity?
It genuinely could. I mean, I don't know. I feel like there are definitely actors that are just like, nah, I don't want to do that. I mean,
yeah, because I mean, if you remember the Pierce Brosnan, is it Rene Russo one? Like
I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it? Well, like a big point of that. I remember because I was a teenager, but like a big thing was that Rene Russo shows her breasts, and it's like a very like seductive scene. Because that movie's supposed to be kind of sexy, right? Like it's a heist film, but it's really it's a romance and kind of an erotic thriller.
Yeah.
Speaking of nudity, it was funny. My brother, when he reviewed Eddington, he was like, I was really disappointed that in one Ari Aster movie I wasn't going to get to see a penis, but it delivered.
Yeah, my aunts were. That was interesting. I was glad
he's consistent with that. Yeah. My brother said it's that and like head trauma. Every single Ari Aster movie has head trauma and penises.
Yeah, lots of wang.
I thought it'd be an interesting way to close this episode. We sometimes ask for recommendations. I thought it'd be a nice little way because I just found out what mine's going to be. What is the next movie that you're going to watch, and why are you going to watch it? I'll give. Hopefully, because I mean, I'm talking about how serious it is to cover up being sick and COVID and all this stuff. I don't think I have COVID, but if I feel better and I'm contained with myself, it's not a packed crowd, Dan, I might go watch Sorry Baby tonight.
Very nice.
Yes, it's finally this is the first weekend that it's opened up next to me, which is I hate you because you watched it like a month ago, but finally is next to me.
It's really good. Yeah. I really want to watch. Fuck no. There was a screening of that this morning. I think it's supposed to be awful, but I might watch It Man 2. I finally watched It Man, and I really loved it. So I kind of want to watch at least 2 and 3.
So I'm on vacation next week, and I have a lot of time to watch movies. Hopefully, the 2 movies like in the theater that I really am planning on. I would love to see Sorry Baby, but it's not going to come anywhere near me, so I am bummed about that. But I really want to see Sovereign. That's definitely
it's good. I watched it last night. It's
yeah.
Yeah.
So that one, and then probably, and this is the complete opposite, is I Know What You Did Last Summer. Or is it? Yeah, I Know What You Did Last Summer. Yeah. I love slasher films. That's one thing about me. One thing about me is I love me a slasher film. But that's way down on the list. I like how I go from Sovereign. You guys are like, yeah, Sovereign, and then I say I Know What You Did Last Summer, and you guys are like, okay,
no, Stone liked it.
Well, it's funny. I think I had the right mentality going into it, and then I talked to I think the kills are better than the original movie. I watched the original movie right before I saw it. But then I talked to my brother, and he's like, "There's so much Gen Z fucking dialogue in this thing. Like, it's giving this and giving that." I'm like, I hated it. Yeah, I don't know. Dan's shaking his head. Not your cup of tea there either.
That shit bothers me. I mean, it's like those interviews we were talking about. Like, it's just no, thank you.
Well, I texted Dan about this, Brian. Basically, something that made me excited for it is I think the best actor in the movie. His name is Tariq Withers. I was like, that guy's pretty good. I thought he was solid. He's got he reminds me so much of Channing Tatum. Like, he even sounds like Channing Tatum. I think I just kept on seeing that over and over again because I saw the trailer for Roofman before the movie, which I thought looks pretty solid.
Yep.
Anyways, I'm like, man, I hope I get to see him again in something else. He's starring in that horror movie, Him, coming out in like 2 months. I'm like, oh, well, there you go.
There you go.
So that was really cool.
Real quick though, they're also that movie is doing the same thing that we've seen in the past couple Jordan Peele produced movies where it's got Jordan Peele's name all over it, and it's fucking annoying. Like,
Jordan Peele's Him.
Yeah,
exactly. It's like, what, dude? What are we doing?
I hope it just propels the director. I hope it's a good movie. I think Dan said, I think it's gonna be excellent or dog shit.
Yeah.
So I hope it's going to be a good movie, and therefore, projects Justin Tipping's name up there. Like now his next movie, because people are going in probably. I mean, that's how they have to sell it, which is a lazy way to sell the movie. But it's also coming out in IMAX, which is cool. But
I think not to keep going and rambling, but speaking of Justin Tipping, if you haven't seen his movie Kicks, give that a watch. It's kind of hilarious that he did that movie and then he's doing this movie because they seem like it's like total opposite genres, right? Like, but Kicks is a pretty good movie.
Has there ever been a movie like him before? Like, it seems like a really good idea, but it seems like an idea that like obviously it looks like some satanic cult to make yourself better at sports or something like that. I was like, that's a solid idea, and I just don't know if there's a movie out there like it. There probably is.
Not that I can think of.
No.
Crazy. I'm like, when I saw that, I was like, that's a good idea for a film.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
Good title, but all right, guys. That is the end of our Eddington episode. Long conversation, very detailed conversation, diverse opinions, but we love that. Please let us know yours wherever you're listening to this in the comments. I think you can comment on Spotify if you're listening to this on Spotify. What's up? YouTube, how's Dan looking today? Let us know in the comments down below. And Brian, thank you so much for coming on for your first time, which is crazy. We will have you back again very soon, probably. But enjoy your vacation. And until next week, where I believe we were talking about Fantastic Four, go outside, sit on a park bench, touch some grass, call up your friends, and we'll see you then. Peace out, everybody.